Hi everyone, and welcome back to the London Watch Collector channel. If you just tuned into my channel, I'm a watch collector, a watch enthusiast. I'm basically addicted to watches. And on my channel, I'll be discussing and showing you brilliant timepieces ranging from Seiko to Patek Philippe. So guys, if you enjoy my reviews, please subscribe to my channel, make sure to hit the notification bell and follow me on Instagram. So guys, as you can see from the title, this video is about me buying a Grand Seiko. Before we go ahead, I would like to shed some light on my thoughts on Grand Seiko. And why did it take me so long to pull the trigger? Everyone has heard of Grand Seiko. And to me, Grand Seiko is all about the spring drive. Although I know they have 36,000 beats per hour movements, automatic movements as well at a lower frequency, but to me, Grand Seiko is about the spring drive. I've always knew what a spring drive is and I understood the theory behind it. I never looked quite deep into it because I've always categorized the spring drive as being more of a quartz rather than a mechanical, but the correct term would be it's more of a hybrid. For example, a McLaren car would have an engine along with an electric motor. It doesn't make it an electric car. The spring drive is something similar. I'll talk to you about that once I reveal the watch. So what made me buy a Grand Seiko? I was invited by the Grand Seiko boutique in Knightsbridge to the event that was hosted by Hodinkee in the London Design Museum. So I showed up to the event not knowing what to expect. There were a couple of watches on display, and we had some questions asked by Jack and answered by a Japanese guy, which had an interpreter translating everything. They shed some light on the Grand Seiko and the vision that they've had.
Good evening.
44GS というのは、1967年に作られたモデルで、非常にその 44GS が大切な理由はですね、この
reinterpretation of the 44GS, the movement became an automatic movement, and we also used sapphire glass. So, in general, a more thicker case was introduced. And when designing this, what I had carefully in mind was how to make this thicker watch have comfort on the wrist. So, when designing, we tried to make it have a nice curve from one lug to the end of the other lug and achieve a good comfort on the wrist. To use both broad, flat surfaces as well as a two-dimensional curved surface in the design. And in terms of the broad surface, it must be distortion-free and have a perfect mirror finish.
So after the event, I couldn't take the brand out of my mind. I'm not sure if you guys know Japanese people. The culture is quite rich. They take their work so seriously, and I can understand how Grand Seiko was born. And honestly, with that, a week later, I couldn't resist but popping into the Grand Seiko boutique. It's more of a tradition. Every time I pick up a new watch, I'm always wearing my Rolex Skydweller.
But I really like this one because I like the case.
Yeah.
So it makes it feel more intimate to me.
I saw a couple of models, a couple of diver watches priced over £5,000, a couple of Grand Seiko dress watches, and I pulled the trigger on a specific watch, as you can see from the box. And once I show you the watch, you'll understand why. And honestly, to me, and I'm sure many out there, this watch is the true spring drive, and I believe it's the flagship of the brand. If you know about the brand, you probably guessed already which watch I've actually purchased, but as I always do on my channel, I enjoy teasing you guys. We're gonna go ahead, give you the full unboxing unboxing experience and sharing with you my thoughts. Opening the box. Once you open up the box, you have this thick paper called as rice paper. They use this kind of paper in Asia, so it was a nice touch, to be honest. Below that is your manual. Under that would be your guarantee card. And then you have this foam type padding at the bottom, I guess for extra protection. So moving on to the booklet or operating instruction, as you can see there, it says Grand Seiko and then spring drive. Inside, in many different languages, it tells you everything you need to know about the spring drive. I won't bore you with all the information because you can just read it online, but I might touch up on the spring drive once I showcase the case back. Moving on to the certificate of guarantee, which honestly disappointed me. Why do I say that? Because brands such as Tudor or even Hamilton, which are not on the same level of Grand Seiko, have a better guarantee card. I'm not against the paper style because Patek Philippe still gives you an A4 paper, basically the old school. Even though Grand Seiko wanted to stick to the old school type of guarantee card, they should have at least had it more luxurious, because end of the day, you're buying an expensive watch and you expect a better guarantee card. But nevertheless, I'll show it to you, of course. So basically at the back, two pieces were actually ripped. So once you fill up the first page, it duplicates it on the second and the third. One stays with the customer, the other one stays at the boutique, and the third one goes to the Grand Seiko service center. Once you open up the box, you're presented with a tag which has the reference number of the watch, which is an SBGA 211G. At the back, it will have on the top left your caliber number, and again on the right your reference number. I've removed 3 links. I've actually done it myself. It wasn't the easiest because it still has the pins. So I've removed the stickers on the day. I've been wearing this watch for roughly a month. And another thing which annoyed me quite a lot is this cloth, which I have no clue what it is. It's not a microfiber cloth or a packaging cloth. It's just a random, disappointing cloth, to be honest. Even Rolex back in the day, the Pepsi unboxing I've done, the material they used was a velvet cloth that can actually be used to clean the face of the watch. This can't. All it will do is probably smudge whatever is on your watch. But moving on, guys, there you go. You probably guessed from the reference number, this is the one and only Grand Seiko Snowflake. What can I say? I would say hats off to Grand Seiko for creating one of the most beautiful dials I've ever seen. And the reason they call this watch Snowflake is because of the color and because of the dial. And some people say it's because of the weight of the watch. Because if you didn't know, this watch is actually made of titanium. The watch is beautifully presented. You have a power reserve between the 7 and 8 o'clock. Currently it's at 50%, and you can see the GS logo at the top and then spring drive just on top of the 6 o'clock written in blue, which matches the seconds hand, which sweeps at a frequency I can't even imagine. So the sweep you see here is because of a quartz escapement, basically. Come into that in a bit, but let's talk about this watch. So starting with the dial and the hour markers. The hour markers they're actually not made of gold, but the way they finished the hour markers is just incredible. The razor sharp hour markers catches the light extraordinary. The dial you see is built up from multiple layers, and basically what they were trying to do is create the texture of snow. I always like to compare Grand Seiko to Lexus and Toyota. So we can say that Seiko is Toyota and Grand Seiko is Lexus. They are the same manufacturer, but the Lexus always has that extra finish, quality control, luxury built into it. And that's what Grand Seiko is. Believe it or not, they do around 35,000 watches only a year. That's even less than what Patek Philippe does, which is around 55 to 60,000 a year. And they are all produced by hand. Removing the watch from the cushion, which again, a bit disappointed with the material of the cushion. It felt quite cheap. So the case and the bracelet that you see is made out of titanium. Grand Seiko calls it as high intensity titanium, which is more resistant to scratches and corrosion than normal titanium. And comparing titanium to stainless steel, titanium is superior material compared to stainless steel, with the advantage of the lightweight, of course, which is around 30% lighter than stainless steel. As I mentioned, the razor-edged hour markers and the extreme finish and polish on the case is carried out by a famous polishing treatment called as Zaratsu. So the case measures around 41 millimeters in diameter and around 12.5 millimeter in height. The bracelet you see, which reminded me of my Speedmaster bracelet, which is brushed all over, and then in the center it has those small little links which are polished, giving it a nice dressy look. The crown also has the GS logo as well, and the clasp is a folding clasp, which I felt they could have improved on as well. It feels a bit weak, a bit fidgety. Sometimes I need to actually double press to ensure that it's actually locked in place. Moving on to the movement, which I feel that they've decorated and finished brilliantly. So the movement you see is a full in-house movement, a spring drive movement, which is the caliber 9R65, which has roughly around 72-hour power reserve. So what is this whole spring drive about? Well, basically in short terms, and to make it as simple as possible, all the energy that is produced by either winding the crown or by the movement of the rotor while your wrist is moving, all this power generated goes to a regulator, which generates electricity by using the power from the mainspring. And this electricity is not stored, hence why there is no battery, but is actually being consumed immediately by the integrated circuit. And what the integrated circuit does is it generates a signal that acts as a brake and control the speed of the wheel train. And by that, it gives you a sweep that you've never seen on any watch before without using any battery. So is it a quartz watch? No, it's not. Is it a 100% mechanical watch? No, it's not. Is it an automatic watch? Yes, it is. So just like I was against it initially, once you understand what the spring drive is about, you will come to appreciate what Seiko has done, investing all this money and research and knowledge and creating such a movement that no one has thought of before. Us being currently in November, we had the movie Le Mans out. I really enjoyed that movie because Ford actually challenged Ferrari and they beat them in their own game. And I'm not trying to say that Grand Seiko has won the challenge and beat the Swiss when it comes to watches, but definitely the hats off to Grand Seiko for creating such a movement and doing something that nobody has done before, and you can't not appreciate that. And that was the main reason why I decided to pull the trigger and why I would proudly have this watch and the spring drive in my collection. So just to give you a small idea on how does this watch operate, it's just like any other watch. You unwind the crown, it will pop out. Without pulling the crown out, you just wind it. It will charge the power reserve. As you can see, the power reserve indicator is increasing. Moving down actually means full. I thought it would be the opposite, but you can see the curve on the inner power reserve indicating what is full, what is empty. If you pull it out to position 1, you'll be able to set the date without hacking the seconds hand. Pull it one more position to the outside, it will hack the seconds hands, and you can adjust the time. The typical time, 10:10 on the 28th of the month. And of course, to ensure the 100-meter waterproofness, make sure that the winding crown is screwed in. No watch review is complete without a wrist shot. And there you go, guys. That's the Grand Seiko Snowflake on my wrist. What do you guys think? What's your thoughts on the Grand Seiko? Do let me know your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this review. Stay tuned for the coming weeks as I would finally be doing the state of the collection as promised. It's taken me a while to do so, but I'll explain everything in the coming weeks. But make sure to stay tuned. Click that notification bell to be informed. That's all for this week. Thank you for watching.